Joe Biden has authorized the use of anti-personnel landmines in Ukraine's defense against Russia. These mines are considered so damaging, so indiscriminate, that they're also considered illegal by the vast majority of the world. But not the US and not Russia. Ukraine, it appears, willing to bend the rules.
The Biden administration will soon provide Ukraine with anti-personnel landmines.
This is the second time this week the Biden administration has revealed to reporters it's authorizing new use of a lethal, potentially controversial weapon for Ukraine.
Ukraine now reportedly has the ability to hit back further into Russia with the US-made Army tactical missile systems known as ATACMS.
And as with those ATACMS missiles, the use of landmines opens a new front in the war and new complications.
This is a reprehensible decision by the Biden administration. These are prohibited weapons that should never be used by any actor under any circumstances.
Once you release the dogs of war, you're never sure where they're going to run to. But what we're running to is a total unraveling.
So what do we know about these landmines and why 164 countries say they shouldn't even have ever been made? So the way we learned about the provision of these mines to Ukraine, there was no splashy announcement, very few confirmed details.
We provided them anti-tank mines from the very beginning. And because of the way that the fight has evolved, this is just another stage here.
But according to various reporting, a big part of how the US appears to be rationalizing the use of anti-personnel landmines in Ukraine, banned almost everywhere globally, has a lot to do with how these particular mines will work. Now, we often think of landmines as fire and forget. You hide them in the ground, the enemy steps on them at some point in the future, and they explode. Now, of course, the reason that these are so controversial is that sometimes it's not the enemy who steps on them, it's civilians. Sometimes months, years, decades after the war ends. And these mines are usually designed not to kill, but to maim, to cause lifelong injury that overwhelms the enemy's ability to care for their wounded.
It's much more costly and devastating to take care of a human soldier on the battlefield who's screaming, who's in pain, who needs to be then taken for medical services and then have years of rehabilitation.
But US officials have reportedly told several media outlets these mines are different because they run on a battery. That battery is set to die after a predetermined amount of time. And once the battery is dead, assuming the mechanism doesn't fail, which it sometimes does, the mine should be completely inert. No electricity, no ignition, no explosion. So the thinking goes, the US would give Ukraine these mines, only allow them to be used in places where most civilians have already fled. And the US State Department says the mines would effectively deactivate between 4 hours and at most 2 weeks after they're deployed, having fulfilled their purpose of simply delaying the Russian advance.
Within 2 weeks, if they have not been detonated, they become inert. So they will not pose a threat to the civilian population at the end of the conflict.
Not necessarily every mine, if it becomes inert, dies at the same time. It's not necessarily hooked to an exact timer. It's more or less if a battery dies and when a battery dies. So there will be ambiguity with regard to when the mine specifically comes inert.
But there are other problems with using landmines, especially in one's own territory, as Ukraine reportedly plans to do. A big part of why Ukraine has been asking to use anti-personnel landmines for so long is because Russia has been using them since the start of the war.
More than a dozen different types of anti-personnel mines have been used in Ukraine.
According to Mine Action Review, that's an international research hub and a watchdog for the use of landmines, Russia has used at least 13 different types of anti-personnel mines, including a recently developed variant with a sensor fuse that is exceedingly difficult to clear safely. That same report also accuses Ukraine of using mines once in a Ukrainian city under Russian control.
This was Europe's breadbasket, a massive agricultural nation with fields now filled with landmines placed by both Russians and Ukrainians. No one has any idea where all of them are, and there are hundreds of thousands out there.
Ukraine has been dubbed the world's largest minefield. According to Ukraine's government, up to nearly a third of the country potentially now requires demining. That's millions of mines placed throughout the country that have already killed at least hundreds of civilians, according to human rights groups, with an estimated cost of nearly $40 billion to clean up, according to the World Bank.
It can be a slow process because it has to be very methodical. And we either do that manually by people entering into minefields and detecting them up close, or we use mechanical means by using diggers that can go in and clear large areas quickly. It's less precise, and we still have to be quite careful.
According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, anti-personnel mines leave a long-lasting legacy of death, injury, and suffering. And even these so-called non-persistent mines, set to deactivate after a period of time, indiscriminately endanger civilians while they are activated.
They will cause terrible injuries, say, to adults, and even death. With children, they can be devastating. They tend to sever the legs, either one or both legs, and other sort of fragmentation sort of damage as well to hands, arms, and to the face.
And many civilians are in rural areas. They're far from medical services. They do not have the same kind of access to treatment as soldiers do, and yet they are suffering.
So the thought of placing more landmines is something most of the world is officially against. 164 countries are signatories to the Ottawa Convention, which is effectively a treaty to ban the stockpiling, production, and transfer of anti-personnel landmines. Canada signed more than 25 years ago. Ukraine signed just a couple of years later, but neither the US nor Russia ever signed, which puts Ukraine in an awkward position.
I think there's no question that Ukraine's in a difficult position, and you understand the military actions, but I come back to a basic point. There's lots of other ways that you could be helping Ukraine deal with the Russians.
It's not okay to be messing with this treaty, that they're pulling at the very fine fabric of international humanitarian law, and everything threatens to unravel as a result of these kinds of decisions. So providing landmines might be a short-term, gain, but for long-term pain.
Both the US and Ukraine will now need to weigh the stigma of using such a controversial weapon of war against their strategic benefit on the battlefield. But there does seem to be consensus among experts that this alone can't possibly change the course of the war, only stall, delay the outcome. Ukraine is on its back foot.
They have to really go into the defense right now, and that's where these mines are most effective, is in the defensive position.
And yet, in a broader sense, this is yet another example of a kind of red line the US appears increasingly willing to cross in Ukraine's defense as the Biden administration comes to an end and Donald Trump prepares to take the reins.